Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I obviously just got out the shower. I washed my hair today. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my Reading Around the World reading challenge list. I've seen a lot of people do this on BookTube, and I've been wanting to do it for some time now, but I am ready to commit to the challenge. I am officially gonna start trying to intentionally read from different countries around the world. I want to at some point be able to say that I've read a book from every country. Not sure how long this will take. I'm not putting a time limit on myself. This is not like a year-long challenge or something like that. It's literally just something that I want to start tracking and developing a TBR for. I've printed off this map that I'm going to put in my journal, and as I read, I'm going to fill in the map. And once something gets put in my journal, it's locked in. Like, I have to see it through. So I'm very serious about this challenge at this point. Today, I'm mainly going to be talking about my TBR for the challenge. I don't know much about these books. I just seen something about them and I'm like, I want to read it, or it's been on my TBR for some time. A few of these books I own physically and I've gotten from the library. So the ones that I've gotten from the library, I really plan to read like in the next month or two. And the ones that I own physically, I definitely want to read within the next 12 months, So I'm going to be talking about the books that are on my radar, the continent and country that they're from, a little bit about the book, whether or not I know something about the book, and the genre of the book as well. I'm starting this challenge off with a clean slate. I have obviously read from other countries before, but I haven't really intentionally read them, and I'm really only going to be keeping track of the books that I read from here on out, with the exception of the United States, because I read like 90% of my books from there because that's where I live. So let's get into the TBR list. It's quite the TBR, but I am of course missing quite a few countries. I actually have this list organized by continent, so I'm on my grind here. Starting off with North America, we have, oh, by the way, if I say any names wrong, any titles wrong, any authors' names wrong, I am so sorry. Please correct me in the comments if you know the correct pronunciation for anything that I mispronounce. Murmur of Bees by Sophia Segovia. I just checked this out from the library yesterday, and I plan to read it this week. Like, I plan to start it the second I finish this video. This is from Mexico. It is a magical realism, literary fiction, historical fiction, from what I can understand from the synopsis. It sounds very, very interesting. I'm very excited to read it. Obviously, I checked it out and I plan to start it as soon as possible. Then we have Ice Fields by Thomas Warton, which is Canadian lit. This one I also plan to read as soon as possible. I really am thinking that I'm going to pick this up this winter because I don't have much on my winter TBR, and this seems like the perfect winter vibe book. It's like historical fiction about this scientist or explorer that falls into a glacier, and while he's down there he sees something in the ice that changes his life, and he kind of becomes obsessed with this ice. He moves to Alberta, Canada, which is where he fell in the glacier. He was in Jasper, and he kind of spends the rest of his life studying this ice and hoping that whatever he saw in the ice will come out because these glaciers are melting. So it's also kind of an eco-criticism. I'm down. All of that I'm obsessed with. So that's really all I have for North America. Then in South America, I have 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This one is from Colombia, and it is a classic and magical realism, historical fiction, generational saga, that type of thing. Very, very well known. I've heard some amazing things about this book. I can't wait to read it. I am pretty sure it's going to be a new favorite book of all time because I did start it and I read like that much, and the quotes that are in this book so far, outstanding. I just need to be mentally ready and intellectually ready to read this book because I feel like I'm gonna be wanting to dissect every little part of it. So I'm very excited to read it though. Then we have The Book of Pleasures by Clarice Lispector, which is Brazilian, and I don't really know what genre that one is. I don't know if it's short story or what, but Clarice Lispector is very well known, and that book is just the one that I find the most interesting from her backlist, because I'm pretty sure it's about like the everyday, simple, mundane pleasures of life. I'm pretty sure, but don't quote me on it because I really don't know. I haven't read it. That's all I have for South America. Moving on to Europe, we have quite a bit on here for Europe. Europe and Asia is pretty packed in terms of books that I want to read. For United Kingdom, I have Feel Free by Zadie Smith. This is a nonfiction and essay collection by the one and only Zadie Smith. She is one of the most intellectual writers out there. Her first book, I'm pretty sure, was published when she was 19. She's that girl. She's that girl. She's been that girl. Cannot wait to read this one. The first one was the first essay of this book, which I have already read. And I might have read a few essays from here. But one of the first essays was about the public library, kind of a criticism on the way that the government is working in the UK in terms of funding their libraries. And she's also talking about activism and the ways in which everyone is getting exhausted. Okay, this is a good quote that I read from this book already. So a few of these I've already started and just haven't completed. I couldn't tell you why. Libraries are not failing because they're libraries. Neglected libraries get neglected, and this cycle in time provides the excuse to close them. Well-run libraries are filled with people because what a good library offers cannot be easily found elsewhere. A public indoor space in which you do not have to buy anything in order to stay. So, just some amazing quotes like that. Zadie Smith is a wonderful writer and a wonderful speaker. Please go look up some of her interviews. She is so intelligent and so gorgeous. So yeah, Feel Free by Zadie Smith is my first UK book, but I also have another one which I bought recently and I showed you in my last reading vlog, Wilding by Isabella Tree. This one is a nonfiction, a nature nonfiction, which you guys know is my favorite subgenre. I cannot wait to read this book. It's about this lady and her husband who are living on this British farm and allowed their farm to just grow wildly for about a year or so. And she's like documenting that experience. I plan to read this very, very soon. Maybe in November, which is my birth month, because I try to read as many 5-star predictions in my birth month. So I probably will be reading this in November. I'm very excited to read it. Moving on to Finland, I have The Summer Book by Tove Jansson. I have already read Moominland Midwinter. I plan to finish the Moomin series also because that is such a wonderful little middle grade series. And the one that I read, which is Moominland Midwinter, so good. Perfect for the winter time too. So I plan to read the rest of that series and also read her summer book. And I think she also has a winter book. So really diving into Tove Jansson's backlist is my biggest plan for Finland. Then we have one that I'm very excited for, Germany. Letters to Milana by Kafka. Yeah, from what I understand, this is literally a book of love letters between Kafka and his editor, because it begins as a business correspondence but soon develops into a passionate but doomed love affair. I'm hooked. I bought this about a year ago or so, and from one of my favorite bookstores in New Orleans. If you live in the New Orleans area, please go to Blue Cypress Books, which is on Oak Street, I'm pretty sure. It's a 2-story secondhand bookstore. It's wonderful. I love that place so much. That's like my second home. I don't get to go there often, but if you live in the New Orleans area, you need to go. You would love it. They also have new books, but their used book selection is very, very good, especially if you have reading tastes kind of similar to mine. Germany, Letters to Milana. Can't wait. France. I I have The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. I don't really know much about this book. Emmy, my favorite booktuber, talks about this book very frequently. She loves this book. She even wrote a foreword for one of the editions of this book. I cannot wait to read it. It's a classic. It sounds phenomenal. Kind of a ghost story, kind of a mystery, kind of spooky vibes. If I randomly get the whim to read it this fall, I probably will. Just because I have no control over my reading life. I literally read whatever I want to read. Then I have When I Sing Mountains Dance by Irene Sola for Spain. I'm not really sure what genre this book is. Let me see for you. Hold up. I know that this is a translated fiction. So if you're looking for something to read for Women in Translation Month, this is a recommendation that I have not read yet. But so there's some nature vibes going on in here. A little bit of magical realism, contemporary literary fiction. I'm hooked, guys. I'm hooked. I don't know. It sounds good. The cover is stunning, gorgeous. OMG. Can't wait to read that one. Then I have If on a Winter's Night, a Traveler by Italio Calvino. I think this one is a short story collection. My Goodreads is a mess, but you can follow me on there to see all of these books. It sounds intriguing. I'm hoping there's going to be a lot of winter imagery in it. And then I have 10 minutes, 38 seconds in the Strange World by Elif Shafak, and that is from Turkey. I'm pretty sure that this one is also a literary fiction, historical fiction, and literary fiction. And last but not least, for Europe, I have Heaven and Hell by John Stephenson, or Juan Stephenson from Iceland. Moving on to Asia, I have quite a few books from Japan that I really, really want to read. Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. Talked about this in my fall TBR. I'll be reading it in the next month or two. The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arakawa, which I also talked about in my fall TBR, so I'm not going to touch on those too much. Before the Coffee Gets Cold is short stories. This one is kind of a fiction. And then I also have A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki, which is a historical fiction. This is one that I own. I also own Before the Coffee Gets Cold, but I checked out Traveling Cat Chronicles from the library. Then I also have The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa from Japan as well. I have quite a large Japan TBR, I'm not gonna lie. Let me see what genre The Memory Police is. This is a dystopian. Ooh. And it's set in the wintertime. I heard that it's perfect for winter. So that is a book that I could possibly be picking up this winter. Because like I said, I don't have much of a winter TBR yet. Then for China, I have The Three Body Problem by Cixin Liu. I'm pretty sure that this one is a science fiction. And I also have Where the Mountain Meets the Moon by Grace Lin, which is a middle grade kind of fantasy novel. That TBR. I also have White Night by Fyodor Dostoevsky from Russia. I have The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden for Russia. And I also have The Girl Who Speaks Bear by Sophie Anderson from Russia. White Nights is a classic. The Bear and the Nightingale is a kind of fantasy book. And The Girl Who Speaks Bear is a middle grade by one of my favorite middle grade authors. I read The House with Chicken Legs 2 or 3 years ago. It was phenomenal. I loved that book. If you haven't read anything by Sophie Anderson, please do yourself a favor. The House with Chicken Legs is amazing. She always writes like the best wintry books. Then I have My Pen is the Wing of a Bird by Lise Doucet from Afghanistan. This one is a short story collection. It's vignettes from different Afghan women. And then I have Kai by Vaishnavi Patel from India. This one is a Greek mythology retelling, kind of historical fiction, kind of magical realism from what I understand. And from what I also understand, the main character, Kai, is a crash out queenie. She's losing it. And sign me up. I love insane women in books. Africa. I have Butter Honey Pig Bread by Francesca Gugliazzi. This one can also count as Canadian literature, but it is set in Nigeria. It is a magical realism kind of family saga. I can't wait. I have a lot of magical realism on the CDR. I didn't even realize that. And then I have, also from Nigeria, Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, which is a classic, and Akata Witch by Indy Okorafor, which is a fantasy and a young adult. I read Binti. I really enjoyed Binti. I gave it 3 stars. It's also a YA fantasy, but Binti is a very short one. Akata Witch, I think, is about the size of a normal book, but Binti was like 90 pages long. Then I have My May by Jessica George for Ghana, which is a literary fiction and contemporary fiction. Wonderful Adventures of Mrs. Sequel by Mary Sequel for Jamaica, which is a classic. And When We Were Birds by Ayana Lloyd Banwo for Trinidad and Tobago. This one is a magical realism. Nothing for Antarctica yet. If you guys have any Antarctica recommendations, please let me know, because I have nothing for there yet. And then for Australia, I have Nevermore by Jessica Townsend, which is a middle grade fantasy, and Skylarking by Kate Mildenhall, which is a kind of literary fiction from what I know. That is everything that I have on my Around the World Reading Challenge TBR right now. I am so excited to read all of these books. If you have any recommendations whatsoever for literally any country, please let me know. If you've read any of the books on this list that I've talked about, please let me know your thoughts, because I have not read them yet and I need encouragement. I'm not sure how often I will do check-ins for this challenge, because like I said, I'm not putting a time limit on it, but I do want to have a good bit of books under my belt before checking in, telling you guys which countries I've read from first, my thoughts on those books and that kind of thing. So I'm not sure how often I'll be updating, but I will be updating. That's what I'm planning to read for this challenge. I'm very excited to read everything on this list and to see which ones I like, to find new books and read around the world. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Bye!